By now, Krish and Ananya have been able to sort out their cash flows, have been able to figure out the best way in which they can maximize the various tax saving options available within their salary structure by claiming HRA and LTA. They've put in place certain credit cards which will help them manage their expenses better on a month-on-month basis, and now they know that they have a good circle around themselves in the form of the right insurances in place which protect their lifestyle. And now they sit down to discuss the all-important goal setting and deciding where to put the money based on the goals that they set for themselves. Let's do a deep dive to understand the goals that they are looking to define for themselves. Now into their third money date, Krish and Ananya finally managed to get down on making a list of all the goals that they would like to achieve together over the next few years. And when you look at the list of the goals, they obviously want to set aside an emergency fund, which they already have. They want to purchase a house because they've been staying in rent for the past 2 to 3 years. They also want to set aside a corpus for retirement or becoming financially free, and which has to be a must goal in anybody's list. They would like to set aside some money for travel, which is again a very popular goal among couples today. Ananya has a me goal wherein she would like to do a certification course in art, and she would like to go and do it in Rome, which is the center of art in the world. She's always been a keen observer in art and would like to pursue that hobby a little more seriously. Further discussions show up that they would want to consider buying a car also together. And finally, they want to set aside a certain corpus for their parents' health, so that if any emergencies were to crop up, in addition to the health insurance which their parents have, they have a corpus to fall back on in case of any unforeseen eventualities. Given that they have so many goals, the first thing they need to do is bifurcate these goals into needs and wants so that they can prioritize their goals. It is possible that they may not be able to meet all these goals, but if these are bifurcated between needs and wants, they know exactly the goals they need to prioritize and the other goals which can take a backseat. So when they reclassify these goals into needs and wants, the 4 goals of emergency fund, a home purchase, their own retirement, and a corpus for their parents' health become their need goals, that is must-have goals. Whereas buying a car, going on regular holidays, and Ananya's certificate course becomes a part of their wants, that this is something they would love to have after they've been able to fulfill all their needs. Having listed down all their goals, the next step is to have a look at their investments to figure out how much money they've been able to accumulate till date. If you look at their investment portfolio, you can see that both of them have a good mix of investments across a fixed deposit, a liquid fund, debt mutual funds, equity mutual funds, and their retirement EPF account. The total money that they've saved across all these instruments is an amount of 47.82 lakhs. After Krish and Ananya have a look at their portfolio, they realize that they have a problem because it doesn't appear that they have enough funds to meet their short-term goals. If you look at their short-term goals, they have a goal of buying a car. Krish wants to buy a car to ease their commute, whereas Ananya wants to pursue a certificate course in art. Apart from these 2 goals, both of them also have a goal that they want to move into a house at the earliest possible, and they will need to set aside 47 lakhs if they were to make the down payment for the house, and the balance money being funded by a bank in the form of a home loan. While the total immediate requirement becomes 10 plus 10 plus 47, that is 67 lakhs, the total investments available is only an amount of 47.82 lakhs. What are the options that they have? Option 1 they discuss is that they postpone buying the car, they spend the money for doing the certificate course, and obviously they would still be a shortfall towards buying the house. They would delay the buying of the house by a few more years, by when they should be able to accumulate the corpus of 47 lakhs required for the house. Option 2 was both of them pursue their individual goals. Krish buys the car for himself, she goes and pursues her certificate course, and they push the home purchase goal by a few years so that their individual goals are met. But in option 2, obviously their home purchase goal has to be pushed much further off because they're going to consume 20 lakhs out of the 47 lakh savings that they have as of today. Option 3 is that both of them drop their respective me goals that they have and focus on the single V goal of buying the house and fulfilling their dream of moving into their house which they can call their own? Well, there is no easy answer as to what option Krish and Ananya must use. It is for each couple to decide what they think is the best way forward. They can always choose to prioritize their me goals and push the home purchase, or vice versa, drop both their me goals, their respective goals of having a car and pursuing a course abroad, and buy their house. It's going to be a lot of to and fro between the couple, maybe another money date just to figure out what is the right way forward. And it is on the next money date they realize that buying their home is a much more important dream for them than buying a car or pursuing the certificate course. So they go ahead and prioritize their goal and decide that they will purchase their home and put all other goals into the cold storage for now. If you go back and relook at their finances, out of the 47.8 lakhs, they set aside 4.8 lakhs as an emergency fund. They decide to keep aside the money which is lying in their EPF account of 4.6 lakhs, not touch that money, keep it for their long-term retirement goal, and decide to pursue buying their house. If you look at the numbers, you will realize that they still do not have the 47 lakhs to purchase the house, and they are left with a shortfall there. Here is where their parents come in and decide to gift them an amount of 8.5 lakhs to help them meet the shortfall of their home purchase. And to learn more about how they realized the dream of buying the house, how did they arrange for the down payment, how did they get to processing their home loan, and finally moved into their dream house, I would highly recommend that you look at our course Money and Makan, which will detail their entire home purchase journey and act as an example for you also to look at how you can meet your dream of buying your own house. Well, Krish and Ananya got lucky this time that in spite of dropping their individual goals and pursuing the joint goal of buying the house, they still had a shortfall, but their parents pitched in here and contributed the shortfall of 8.5 lakhs to help them make the down payment of 47 lakhs that was required to buy the house. The balance house was funded by a home loan of INR 1 CR, which helped them achieve their dream of buying their house. So it is extremely important for couples, since there are two people involved here who would want to take care of both their individual and joint requirements. It becomes extremely important that you match your goals and dreams to the reality of how much finances you have to achieve them, eliminate unnecessary goals or push the unnecessary goals or goals which we classify as wants, focus on the needs, and then take the step ahead towards meeting your important goals first. Having decided to purchase the house and consume their entire portfolio towards making the down payment for the house, let's look at how their cash flows would look like post the home purchase. So they are still earning an amount of 2 lakh rupees each month. Post the home purchase, if you look at their expenses, what is going to change is they will no more have to incur the rent of 30,000 per month, but they will have to add an expense in the form of maintenance of the house of 5,000 each month, maintenance and property taxes. And because they've taken a home loan of 1 crore against which they're going to pay an EMI of 80,000 each month, they're going to save a certain amount of taxes on the interest that they are paying, resulting in a total tax saving of 3750 after they've lost out the tax saving of HRA, because they're no more paying rent but living in their own house. After taking into account the change in their expenses, we can see that the total expenses have gone up to 91,250, and after paying the EMI of 80,000, they are left with a saving of 28,750 per month. So their joint savings of 40 plus 40, 80,000 per month has come down to an amount of 28,750 per month. To sum up what their cash flows would look like, they are earning an amount of 2 lakhs per month. 40% of their cash flows is being used to service their EMIs, which is considered a comfortable EMI to have. If you go back and look at our course Money and Makan, we talk about how much EMI is a good EMI to have and how you can arrive at the value of the home that you can afford based on your earnings on a month-on-month basis. After setting aside 40%, that is 80,000 per month for the EMI, they have expenses of 91,250 towards their lifestyle or living expenses, which consumes 46% of their earnings, and their savings have dropped to an amount of 14% every month, resulting in a saving of 28,750 each month. Now, given that they are saving 28,750 each month, let's have a look at which goals of theirs they will be able to fund with this reduced saving each month, given that they've achieved their one major goal of buying the house. But with achieving that goal, they are having a major chunk of their cash flows going towards repaying the EMI, resulting in a much smaller saving corpus. With the small saving corpus that they have today, let's have a look at the goals that they can afford to save for, or the goals that they can afford today. Out of their original list of 7 goals, they have achieved their goal of setting aside money for an emergency fund and have achieved the home purchase goal also, wherein they've just used up their portfolio to buy the house. Out of the other 5 goals, they realize that with the reduced corpus, they may or may not be able to achieve all of them. So they decide to drop the goal of buying a car, and they want to do a check if they'll be able to meet the other 3 goals. That is, set aside money for a travel abroad, set aside money for their retirement and for their parents' health, and if at all Ananya can think of pursuing her certificate course, given that they've consumed most of their portfolio. So they segregate their goals into short-term and long-term goals, wherein they want to travel abroad and want to set aside 3 lakhs for it. Ananya wants to set aside 10 lakhs for her certificate course, and their long-term goals consist of putting aside 15 lakhs for their parents' health and retiring with a corpus of 10 CR 29 years from now. If all their goals are converted into monthly investable amounts required, you can see that they need to put aside 9,000 a month for their travel goal, 20,000 a month for the certificate course that Ananya wants to pursue at Rome, 16,500 a month for their parents' health, and 18,000 a month for their retirement. To their total saving of 28,750, you can add the amount they've been contributing towards their PF, which gives them a total saving of 43,850, whereas the total amount required for all the 4 goals is an amount of 63,500. They are left with a shortfall of 19,650 each month, and here is when they need to have a discussion on what they need to do to rationalize the list of goals that they have today. They decide to set aside or drop the goal of pursuing a certificate course immediately, given that they've just spent a lot of money on buying the house, and they rationally agree that it is more important to set aside money for their retirement and for their parents' health, and also to enjoy the short pleasures of a quick holiday when they can afford it. So they decide to put aside the certificate course for now and pursue only 3 out of their goals which are left to be achieved. With their 3 goals now well defined, that is a short-term goal for putting aside money for travel and long-term goals of saving money for their parents' health and their own retirement, a major hurdle is crossed or a major milestone is achieved for them as a couple together. Now they can put themselves on a path which is more sure in terms of how their finances are being invested. So the total savings of 43,850 is bifurcated between long-term and short-term goals. They put aside 9,000 for a short-term goal into a debt fund to take care of their travel requirements, and the balance goes into long-term investments, which is going to be a mix of debt and equity. To understand the amount of money that they need to invest in debt and equity, they have to do the risk profiling, and when both of them sit together and do the risk profiling, they turn out to be a growth couple, meaning they need to put aside 30% of their long-term money in debt and 70% in equity, and that's exactly what they do. So the long-term investments of 34,500 needs to be invested in a mix of debt and equity based on the risk profile of 70% towards equity and 30% towards debt. That gives us an investment of 24,150 in equity and 10,350 in debt. But if you look at their actual allocation, we already know that both of them are contributing 9,600 per month towards their EPF accounts. Now that results in an allocation of 19,200 towards debt, and the balance money, that is 34,500 minus 19,200, which is equal to 15,300, is the only amount that is available for allocation towards their equity investments. So what you are seeing here is that although the ideal allocation calls for investing a certain amount in debt and equity, because they've just purchased a house, and they have such a large EMI outstanding, they are not able to meet the ideal allocation. They are being forced to put a larger amount of money into their EPF account, and they're left with a smaller allocation towards their equity funds. This lopsided allocation is not uncommon and is generally resultant of a lot of shuffle within the portfolio, or when you withdraw money for a goal which you've just spent the money towards achieving that particular goal. Again, it is not uncommon and it is something that you should not be worried about, because over a period of time you will be able to still meet your target allocation of 70% equity and 30% towards debt. Well, there are a lot of options you can explore to meet your target debt equity allocation. One of the ways in which they can meet their debt equity allocation is when they earn their bonuses, a larger portion of the bonus can be allocated towards equity so that the lopsided in debt and equity is rebalanced back towards having a larger amount of money being allocated towards equity in the form of the bonus earnings. Additionally, as their salary increases on a year-on-year basis, the total increase in salary, the entire increased portion can be allocated towards equity till they come back to the equilibrium of 70% of their monthly income being invested in equity and 30% being invested in debt. So we can see that while today their investment seems a little lopsided and not in sync with their ideal allocation of 70:30, over a period of time, by allocating their increments and by allocating the bonuses or surpluses that they manage to generate over time towards equity, they'll be able to balance out this lopsidedness towards debt today, and over time they'll be able to achieve the 70% allocation to equity and 30% allocation towards debt. So you can see that not every couple is going to have a smooth ride in terms of having these discussions on where the money should be invested, which goals needs to be prioritized, and finally put a system in place on which both of you are in sync with each other and know exactly where your respective monies are being invested, and you know that it is towards a common goal in which both of you are in agreement towards them. With this harmony in place, you will find yourself leading a much more surer and much more peaceful financial life, because you know exactly that your money is being invested, your money is flowing through your accounts, your money is doing exactly what you want your money to do for you.